And Hollywood's done so many movies on this blacklisting. But yet today, the conservative in Hollywood, or the someone that goes against the current, they go like yourself here in England. You go against the current and you're canceled.
Yeah.
I don't understand where we're being stapled, our tongues are being stapled to our foreheads.
For the wrong to rule, the good must just stand idly by. Hello. This week, I am joined by the star of 170 separate movies and The Goonies and License to Kill, Robert Davi, who also directed me in the only film I'm allowed to be in nowadays, which is called My Son Hunter. Hi, brother.
Hello, brother. Good to see you. Great to see you. He's absolutely marvelous in My Son Hunter. It's a shame that they don't hire this brilliant actor. He's the modern Peter O'Toole. He's the modern, he's such a leading man. And I urge you, My Son Hunter, if this was a film that the Academy would pay attention to, Oscar. He absolutely captures a very difficult part. And he's like a master juggler. You really do a tremendous job in the film.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, working with you was a fucking nightmare.
It better be.
You screamed at me all the time.
I had to make sure I got that performance.
You screamed
I know the kind of, listen, there are certain, you like a Ferrari, right? Or a Lamborghini, let's put it that way.
Okay.
All right? So you have to, be very adept at firing it a certain way.
But you also.
But did I not?
You made
How was that direction?
Your direction was brilliant. You made it. It was amazing. But you had an interesting approach to directing, which was to stop people halfway through a take.
Yes.
When they're acting and just go, no, stop! I don't believe this. This is crap. Stop it. I want to see something else. What do you want? What do you want? Just not that.
Well,
that's shit.
No, I would tell you what I wanted.
Yeah, you did.
I did. No, and you adapted beautifully as the John James and the Emma, who plays the leading lady. No, you got to realize my training with Adler. I believe, and
Stella Adler, that is.
Yeah, Stella, who brilliant acting coach and teacher, brilliant woman. The people get into habits sometimes, and if you let the scene play, you have to shake it up. You know what I mean? We taught, and the same thing at the actor's studio in terms of negation. So it's unsettling the actor that gives them an uneasiness that they're playing something else. It brings them somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that's why I do that. Not all the time. And you can't do that with all the actors.
No, with the sensitive
But with
ones.
you, the sensitive ones, the adept and the skilled ones, you can do that.
And what's changed?
And talented ones.
What's changed in showbiz? Have you noticed the woke stuff hitting showbiz hard?
Oh, come on, how can you not? When Disneyland or Disney is changing, putting a disclaimer in front of Aladdin.
Are they?
Yeah.
What does it say?
It's maybe objectionable to some people.
What did you just shout in the cigar shop when we were downstairs?
Well, there was an Indian.
As in American Indian?
An American Indian in a cigar shop in the corner. And he was, what was he doing this? And I just said, I'm offended because it's cultural appropriation. We should not have that cigar store Indian in the smoke shop.
Yeah.
And this is the way of the world today.
And what did you shout at lunch?
What did I say? I forget.
The Swiss reggae band.
Oh, the reggae band. I didn't shout it, but I wanted to make sure the reporter sitting next to us heard it.
Hugh
perhaps.
Edwards.
Yeah. So I just had an interview with a German newspaper outlet. He does he feeds a lot. He's like Reuters of Germany.
Yeah.
And he told me that in Switzerland, a reggae band, white reggae band, the performance was stopped halfway through because of cultural appropriation, because a female had some dreadlocks and one of the guys had dreadlocks.
Yeah.
And to me, this is, as you know, you're fighting the fight here against this kind of woke ideology.
You can have a black Anne Boleyn, which we had, but you can't have a white reggae band. Why is that?
Well, because it's, the agenda. There's this agenda. This is why I like this woman you introduced me to, this Kemi
Badenoch.
But she gave a wonderful speech.
Yeah.
I can't believe this. I wanted that speech in America. This Nigerian black woman who should be running the government of England, as you say.
Yeah.
Because she's very clear in terms of not having color be an issue, race be an issue. Now, look, every country, every race, every religion has had its ups and downs and persecutions. Christians were beheaded. Christian churches were shut down. Muslim issues. You had all kinds of different things. My family came from Italy at the turn of the 19th century.
You could never tell.
Sicily and Naples. They came from Sicily and Naples. Could never tell. Well, I can hide that. I played a lot of other characters besides Italian, quite frankly. But anyway, no. But in 1906, the New York Times said the Italian was lower and dirtier than the New York Times said this, and they were spit on and they were desecrated. I was even in the 60s and 70s. I remember being referred to as a greaseball or a wino. But we were never taught to be victimized. We never taught to be victimized. We talked to education, knowledge, success. You could do anything you want. We weren't held down by the notion of victimization. And I believe that history should be taught. There's a lot of the history, the dark history of countries. But let's tell it in such a way that doesn't alienate us and doesn't denigrate one color over another. But you could say that this has happened with a group of people and why it happened at that specific time, but where we've come from. We seem to be going back.
Why?
Because there's to my mind, it has to be, it has to be orchestrated. You can't have this done on such a wide, worldwide range and not have another agenda. There's some agenda somewhere out there. I don't know exactly what it might be, but it's to
divide people again.
Well, of course, it's absolutely because you can divide the people. We were coming together, and now when you're divided, you can have the chaos you want to then take control and have a sleight of hand about whatever it is. You know, someone showed me this clip that in the Bible. Now, I don't necessarily believe all of that, but and I don't mean the Bible. I mean the philosophy of what this clip said, which was that the devil reigns supreme over this earth and wants confusion. And that's that's biblical.
Yeah.
So that chaos has, it's just, when you have a Supreme Court justice nominee, like they had in America, and the Supreme Court justice nominee can't answer the question, what is a woman?
Yeah.
She says, I'm not equipped. I don't think I'm
And
equipped.
she was picked. So get me if I'm wrong. I think the black population of America is 13%, right?
13%.
13%. So the female black population of America is 6.5%, 7%. So they picked a Supreme Court judge from 7% of the talent pool, who can't tell you what a woman is. That's not cool. And also, how crazy is it to say, I'm going to pick a judge based on immutable characteristics instead of picking a judge on who's the best judge?
It should be.
Would you want to get on a plane with someone who was picked just because they happen to have, one finger longer than another?
That's cultural appropriation.
Stop culturally appropriating my culture, you cultural appropriating culture. Why can't we just call it cultural appreciation?
No, what they're doing
Yeah.
is a cultural appropriation.
But isn't it also really denigrating towards the
anyone
black community to turn around and go, because it's almost like going, we have to help you. So was it Malcolm X that said the white liberal is the biggest enemy of the black
Malcolm
man?
X said that. As a matter of fact, it was very interesting. There's a documentary about Muhammad Ali that kind of can give a historical foundation to some of this. There was the Nation of Islam that Elijah Muhammad had. And he believed in the separation of the races. And at a certain point, and Malcolm X was a part of that. And Muhammad Ali then became part of the Nation of Islam there. He became part of that. And I met Ali. He gave me a thing of a very peaceful, beautiful human being. This is later in life. But he had this... He was following this ideology of the separation, which this Nation of Islam had. And Malcolm X was part of that, and they were struggling for the influence over Muhammad Ali, between Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad. And what happened was Malcolm X had then gone to Hajj, and he saw blonde, blue-eyed people worshiping Islam. And he had a revelation there that it's not about separation, it's about unification. and he then departed from Elijah Muhammad, and of course Malcolm X was assassinated. But Elijah gave Muhammad Ali the name Muhammad Ali, and that's what pulled him there. When he left Elijah Muhammad and Herbert Muhammad took over, he then created the Unification Church and said, no, we have to live together.
Yeah.
And Ali's made that transition. Now, for some reason, there are separatists that are still happening. Now, that's not to say it didn't happen to a certain segment of the white population in America. You know, you had issues.
Well, you got 100,000 dead people from opioid addiction last year, didn't you?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you had 700,000 dead for the Civil War,
Yeah.
fighting for slavery.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's and then you have the fentanyl, you have the borders that are out of control. Like, I'm very surprised here. In L.A., I left L.A. after 45 years because it became a shithole.
Right.
The crime, the disrespect for law and order, the smash and grab, walking in the streets and they'll steal purses and things from people, the homeless encampments. Now, I've not been all over London here, but if I took the same trips that I've taken the last 2 days in Los Angeles that I did in London, I would come upon homeless encampment after homeless encampment. And I'm talking about even after, like, in other words, if we had lunch today and we were sitting in an outside cafe,
Yeah.
and someone took their pants down and took a crap with your daughter or this little 13-year-old girl, 12-year-old girl having lunch with you. This happened to my friend who's a big lawyer in L.A., right in Sherman Oaks. And for some reason, Gavin Newsom and Eric Garcetti and the left in America and the right, both parties, I think, are in this thing together. They can't. And something happened that I found disturbing, and I don't know exactly. The GOP, for me, in America,
Grand Old Party Republicans,
Yeah.
for English people who don't know that.
Yeah, they're tone deaf in culture. The most important thing you can do is the culture, because politics is downstream from culture.
Yeah.
As Andrew Breitbart, my good friend, used to say, and you know about this.
Yeah.
And for some reason, they have a stodgy aspect. They don't know how to message. They don't know how to capture the imagination. Like a thing that's I'm passionate about the environment. Okay. I did a thing for Prince Albert in Monaco. I did a thing in Hollywood for science. I believe that there is something with the environment. We have to have clean oceans, clean water. We have to respect Mother Earth. And global warming, whether it's man-made or not, if we're going through some transition, that people say that it's worse, bigger crisis than World War II. That's what they're saying. But yet I have kids and on the streets, screaming, lying down in the streets in Italy and other places, fighting for the environment. My problem is this. If this is such a big crisis, and the politicians are all worried about it, why don't we have an Earth Force? And I wrote a paper on the Earth Force. It's 4 pages, based on a guy from Mumbai, an Indian guy from Mumbai, that cleaned up the beach in Mumbai, that for 20 years no turtle lived. He took tons and tons. It took him 3 years. He cleaned the beach. That turtles now started to go again. So that's one guy. Now all these kids that Greta screams about, and the UN, and they're doing this all over the world. Why? And I say especially in America, because I don't know what the statistics are here, but in the U.S., for every 60 applicants in the inner cities to volunteer for the armed forces, 59 are rejected. 59 are rejected. What happens to that 59? Drugs, gangs, ne'er-do-well, trouble. There are 20 suicides a day from ex-military personnel. 20 suicides a day. Because there's not an assimilation after they've been in battle for so long. What happens? So my idea in the Earth Force was to take this retired military personnel, train them in reforestation, toxic mishaps, if there was flood issues, new green technologies, have factory, teach now this Earth Force, trained by military, take these kids, make it mandatory. If this is the biggest crisis, we need to have a mandatory draft for 4 to 6 years of 18 to 21-year-olds, whatever it is, to give to the earth, to learn these new green technologies, to learn how to clean up. And if we have this massive flooding on the Thames and wherever else, and you've got to relocate people all over the world, you have a force that does this. You have an active issue, solution to something.
To build a seawall outside Barack Obama's
Whatever it might
beachside house.
The beachside house.
Yeah, the one that's going to be underwater in no time at all. I'm kind of. We're all concerned about the environment, aren't we? That's fine.
Yes.
I think it's a good idea.
The
Get up
earthquakes.
off the street. Stop lying around, super gluing yourself to the street.
And they'll learn.
And you learn something.
They'll learn a trade, a new trade. They'll learn how to make whatever the wind or the solar or whatever the new battery thing might be. And then you can get health care and education. So it takes care of so when they talk to me about a $4 trillion infrastructure bill, make that the Earth Force, man.
Did it get through the $4 trillion bill? No.
Parts of it did.
Bits of it
a
did.
$2 trillion bill.
So, but the change in films. Why? So, if you were in England,
Yes.
with these views, you'd have been cancelled.
No.
Yeah.
Here?
Do you think so, Alex? Yeah, you wouldn't get a job here.
With these views?
Yeah, with these perfectly reasonable, sensible, grown-up views.
But why?
Because they'd find it scary. They'd be offended, like our video yesterday.
Yes, that was
Do you
so
see?
powerful.
They can't. I fought a burglar outside my son's room. I had his face on CCTV. I fought the guy. I was the person who was detained because I was on top of him. And then I gave the police the CCTV. They found him and released him due to lack of evidence. And they sent 7 coppers round to this guy's house for one tweet. That's
tweet?
for this tweet of this
Yeah,
pride
yeah.
flag. So it's crazy.
It's insane.
Do you think there's a path back for someone like me in showbiz?
Of course there is. You're too talented. You know, here's the thing, and I say this to anyone listening to this: the hypocrisy of all of this, and the danger. This is, and we talked about this at lunch for a minute. It's the gathering storm in the 1930s of what happened in Germany.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of fear-mongering, cancel culture thing, because in America, well, let me start this here. I don't know if many people know this. In the 1920s, the 30s, the 40s, and 50s, the communists in Russia put millions of dollars into America to put operatives into America, into the unions, into entertainment, into the Hollywood community, into the media, into the government. So much so that the treasurer under Franklin Delano Roosevelt was a communist. We know John Brennan said he was a communist for a time in our government. Hollywood has done so many movies about the blacklist of Hollywood. When they were looking for people, now it's a terrible thing, that blacklist, and Frank Sinatra was one of the first people to take a cancel culture guy and give him a job. That's why I was happy to say, okay, Laurence Fox, absolutely. Gina Carano, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the thing is, how do you do movies about the blacklist in Hollywood on people that were considered, because of their political ideologies, wanting to overthrow the American way of life? Because communism was just that. Now, yes, there were innuendo, and people got hurt that maybe shouldn't have gotten hurt. Absolutely. And Hollywood's done so many movies on this blacklisting. But yet today, the conservative in Hollywood, or the someone that goes against the current, they go like yourself here in England. You go against the current and you're canceled.
Yeah.
I don't understand where we're being stapled. Our tongues are being stapled to our foreheads. Why? I mean,
Fear. People don't like the truth, do they? So if you turn around and you go, the fight back is beginning here. So the whole transgender issue, which is huge in the UK, they announced that they're going to close the main clinic for that. So imagine the fight back will happen, and this sort of voluntary thalidomide thing that's been taking place is going to be reversed, and there's going to be millions of court cases, and the whole thing will swing back round, and the media will just follow it. But it seems to be a really bad time to be a creative. And what was weird actually with doing the film was that was the nicest atmosphere, other than you screaming at our poor first AD, little fuck.
No,
He
I
said,
didn't do
he said,
that.
"Little-" you used to come up to me and go, little fuck.
No, I never
He
did
said,
that.
little fuck, I'm going to fucking get him. I'm
No,
gonna
no,
get him. You
no,
do
no.
your acting better. Go, get back to the set.
What I say?
Shut up, get him over here. Foxy, come here. Hunter, come here. You see this? Stop rocking. You look stupid.
What I say? Stop what?
Rocking. Do you remember when I was doing that scene with her and we were cuddling? And you're like,
yeah.
stop rocking. You look stupid.
Yeah, but I never said that. My AD was great.
Yeah, no, I'm not joking. He's probably not going to see this, I imagine.
Yeah, but he would. But no, but I no. The only thing I fight for the film.
Which you did, and it's
Yeah,
beautiful
I
the
fight
way,
for the film.
the way it's shot. Do you think it's going to affect?
Yeah.
Do you think a lot of people are going to want to watch it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think even the left is going to watch it because we humanize your character. Hunter is very humanized.
Yeah.
You know, in other words, even the affair you have with your brother's wife.
Yeah.
That
was fun to shoot.
I
Thanks
wanted
for
that humanized. You know what I mean? I wanted that human. I didn't want it. It was written initially that it was lascivious, and I didn't want that. I didn't want Richard III. I wanted somebody that was, grief brought them together. Whether it's true or not, but it does. In some instances, people have had grief and shared grief, and something has happened.
Yeah.
And Hunter talked about it in his autobiography.
Yeah, which is almost compelling. His autobiography, the way,
Yeah.
like the way the woke people and the people that lie to themselves on a daily basis. We all lie to ourselves on a daily basis, but those that have.
I don't lie to myself.
Yeah, you're actually.
I never lie to myself.
I'll give you that. You don't. It just comes out.
It just comes out.
But I listened to it as an audiobook, and I really started to feel for the guy.
Yeah.
But I know it's all bollocks.
Whether it is or not.
A lot of it is.
You can't. I know. See, again, this is how we interpret people's actions and behaviors, because you can never look into anyone's real soul. You don't know what the torment might be. We knew, and like I said, it's heartbreaking. I mean, the one time, there's a moment there that's very powerful to me, when you wanted to play into the emotion of it, and I says, no, you did something earlier. I like that. Remember?
Yeah, when
you're talking
laughing.
about yes.
Yeah.
I says, that to me is a heartbreak. Let her see that. You see that color. So I'm looking at the color.
Is that before I'm snorting the cocaine off the carpet?
I forget. It may have been right after. Yeah, there's cocaine. Well, it's Parmesan cheese, right? No, but I mean, it's no. But the measured performance you give is just, and then the relationships between you and the girl, by Grace Anderson, a beautiful actress, and John James, who plays your dad, who plays Joe.
I sent him a message the other day saying, I love you, Dad, and he sent me 3 emojis, a glass of bourbon, a skull, and a coffin.
Yeah.
I love the man.
Funny.
He's brilliant as Joe Biden, isn't he? Because
Yeah.
he didn't play him as, he played him like you knew that there was something beginning to go wrong in his brain.
Yes.
But not, it's not a parody performance.
No, I wouldn't
It's kind
get
of
it.
a comedy gangster movie, isn't it, in a way?
Yeah, you could say that there's a for me it was what's it? There's a great film that David O. Russell did. That I said to everyone from the beginning, I'll do this film when they wanted me to direct it if I can give it the style of what the heck is it? David O. Russell film. You know what it is? Abscam, the Abscam movie.
Alex, the other film.
Look it up. The Abscam film. David O. Russell. What's the name of that film? I reference it so often, and now it's escaped me. Maybe it's American Hustle. American Hustle. That was I wanted to, where the characters are playing for real, but there's something, and I had to sit on John. He tells me. I wrote him. I wrote him. Because
Stop, John. Stop.
Worst thing is to fall into a behavior again. So now the settlement.
Yeah.
But you'll see the performances are just spot on.
And you're in London for 3 days. Mm-hmm. Just you came to sing a song.
I came. The London first year of the London Action Film Festival. They were screening Die Hard, so they flew John McTiernan and the director and myself. And John did a Q&A. I did a bit of a Q&A, and I sang 4 songs and Let It Snow, because the question was, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? And we've all agreed it is a Christmas movie.
Totally.
Both
Die Hards. The second one was a Christmas movie too. The first one is in the Nakatomi Tower.
Yes, that's the one I did.
And the second one is in the airport, isn't it?
Yes.
So, and they were both Christmas movies.
Around the Christmas time.
Yeah.
But This Die Hard is particularly the number one.
They were such good movies. My favorite thing about American films, and this is why I think it maybe affects the way I am as a person, is that I grew up on the opening shot of a man lying passed out in bed in a vest next to a bottle of booze, and he wakes up, looks shitty, goes to the mirror, drinks half a bottle of bourbon, slaps himself around, and then goes and saves the world. Mm-hmm. And I just thought it's kind of ingrained in my head that that's what heroes are like. Nowadays, you don't even know what heroes are like in films. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it's nice to see people like Chris Pratt playing proper, decent parts.
The humanity of heroism.
In England, I can't think of that many actors who have that kind of oof to them, but maybe not.
I don't know. I couldn't. Well, I think also in America too. There's and again, look. I've been in entertainment my whole life, over 45, 50 years. I've done plays, and you talked about the transgender. I don't care what anybody is.
Yeah.
I've seen some women, transgendered women, that were stunning, absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
And you would know. You know what I mean?
But they're adults. That's fine.
They're adults.
It's not kids.
It's when they're saying that a girl like 3-year-old has to be subjected to an ideology that is unformed.
Yeah.
That's the danger. Nobody's against transgender,
no.
against gay, against anything like that. It's against taking a young child and indoctrinating them in some way, or because it's confusing enough.
Yeah.
And it's been shown that you can lead a child any which way.
Yeah.
You can just lead them anyway. Oh, yeah, I'm that. And because their friends are, and they're in there, and it's cool. And then all of a sudden it becomes something else. Now, there's a story about this. I tell the conservative people, and I tell this to the LGBTQ community. My son, who's 21 now, when he was about 9 years old, came home from school one day, and he was like a little depressed. I said, Nick, what's wrong? He goes, I said, what's wrong? He goes, come on, Nick, we're close. You can tell me anything. He says, Mikey called me a name. Okay. No, I can imagine. I said, what name did he call you? And I'm figuring what kids do in school, right? He goes, he called me the F word, Dad. I don't want to say it, but
yeah.
F-A-G-G-O-T. Faggot.
Yeah.
Called me a faggot, Dad.
Yeah.
I says, oh, okay. He says, do you know what that means? He goes, yeah. Do you have those feelings, Nick? Do you feel anything like that? No, this is me, a macho father. I'm talking to my 9-year-old son. Do you have any feelings? No, Dad. I like this girl, Christy. He says, okay. He says, because it doesn't matter if you have these feelings. You understand? You could tell. If you have any feelings, it doesn't matter to me. He goes, okay, Dad, I know. He said, but let me tell you, if anybody calls another boy or girl a name that's derogatory like that, you stick up for them. And you tell them, how dare you try to label somebody or make somebody feel whatever it might be. Don't do that. And I tell this to my son. Because I want my son, and I know this is in the community, they turn 16 and they go hang themselves because they can't tell their parents that they're gay or that there's something else going on. So I'm sensitive to that, to the aspect of that. And we have to be sensitive to that. And at the same time, we have to be sensitive to people like who my mom was. She's no longer with us. She died in the late 70s. I was having a discussion about Catholicism with her. And I was I grew up with Jesuits in Terre de Chardin, who was a Jesuit philosopher who coined the term the cosmic Christ. He was like a Thomas Merton, C.S. Lewis type.
Yeah.
And I'm explaining her the mythology or the unifying principles of Catholicism with all other religions. And I could understand it was a little bit esoteric for a woman that was teaching confraternity for years. And she goes, there was a look of panic in her eyes for a second. She goes, what do I believe in then? And I had to pull back. No, Mom, I'm just talking. I'm just saying, there are people out there that are like my mother, that you can't force anything. The same way you have to be sensitive to what a kid might do in a closet. There are people out there that aren't ready for whatever it might be that society is pushing on them. And especially children at 3 to 5 to 7, 8 years old.
That makes you a liberal, though.
How?
Because it's tolerance. It's live your best life. Do what you need to do. That's more liberal than conservative. But liberalism is now conservatism,
or whether it's actually fascism as far as the woke people are
Oh,
concerned.
is that it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's where the dialogue misses, that they don't have that conversation. They don't want to have that understanding, much like what happened with you and your friend the other day at
Yeah.
Harry.
And Harry.
With the
They've lost their priorities of what they need to do,
yeah,
which is just sort crime out. Don't sort out people's thinking.
it's insane.
It's moral supremacy.
Yeah,
That's it. I love you.
love you, but my son Hunter. Wait.
Do you think,
Wait.
Do you think it's my way back in?
It should be. You know, look at it. If it was about anybody but a Democrat, it would be a definite way back in. But because it's but you know what? In the States, now when we did the film,
He'll watch it, you know. I mean, Sleepy Joe is going to watch that movie.
he might.
He'll probably forget it 5 seconds later.
He might.
but-
I don't know if he'll forget it, but no, because
He'd be like, "Come on, man."
my favorite. There's so many moments. There's a great moment when you're. You know, you have a moment of pain because you don't live up to your father's expectation, and you played that very interestingly. And Joe then starts to expound on his suffering, and it just is, and the look on your face as here's your father. You wanted some kind of other support from your father, and he takes it into himself, like he has done many times before.
Yeah, he does it with
With
Bo.
everybody.
He does it with Bo a lot, doesn't he?
Yeah. And with other families, you know, I had a thing like that. Whenever somebody is grieving, he brings it to himself,
Right.
you know, and all of a sudden, he goes, you have a great line, Dad, we were talking about suffering.
Yeah, my suffering.
Yeah,
For once.
my suffering,
Oh, Darby.
you know, so anyway.
I'm so happy to see you in London.
Great to- yes.
And for you to come and talk to me. I
Yes.
love you, brother.
Love you.